Well, I'm Filipino. I was born in the Philippines, and my parents migrated to New Zealand, I think in the early 90s. So I grew up in New Zealand. I didn't know too much about my cultural heritage. However, I do understand the language and the certain, what do you call those things? Certain customs, obviously like the food and having Filipino parents, just there's certain ways that you grow up as a Filipino. My dad was really into a lot of, early 80s, Elton John. He was into Lionel Richie. He had a stack of CDs. Like he was obsessed with music, Western style music. So he's a huge fan of the Beatles. I didn't hear too much Filipino songs in my time, but I do remember a lot of the sort of like sort of 70s ABBA, BG style like groups that were out at the time that my dad used to really like, and it was in the Filipino language. So I kind of don't know much about my like cultural sound, but I do know that my dad was like heavy into pop and rock, so I had a pretty good introduction to music. So from New Zealand I moved to Australia in 2003 to live with my mum, and she played a lot of she loved Australian pop. She loves bands like Savage Garden. She used to bump that a lot as well. Like I think every time she bought the album, and that's all I heard for like 2 years straight. Just non-stop Savage Garden. So I know some of the songs, and she takes the time to really understand the stuff that I'm trying to say with the music I make with Dream Cities as well. Like she's got her own like sort of favorites in hip hop, which is surprising enough. She'd text me like Kanye West songs and like the Game records as well. And she'd be like, I really like the beat to this and the raps to this, and I'm like,
wow,
right,
so
cool.
your mom knows her music.
Yeah, she's with it.
She's
like
supportive of you and everything.
very 100%. Like my mom and my dad, like God bless them. Like seriously, ever since I told them that I wanted to explore and be a rapper, like in an Asian sort of background, like it kind of be like concerning because it's kind of like okay, cool, so how are you gonna make money with this kind of thing? But it was opposite with my parents. They were like, okay, cool, do you have a plan? Like, and I'm like, yeah, I'm still gonna work, and I obviously know the value of balance in your life, and I'm gonna learn that and I'm gonna hone that. But this thing here called music, I'm gonna pursue it in any way I can. And my dad was 100% supportive, and my mum as well, all the way till this day. They are like always pushing me to keep going. So yeah, man, not much of a cultural background with Filipino music, but
Yeah, but you got into some stuff while you were there recently, right?
yeah. So I went to the Philippines for the second time a few months back this year, and I got to meet a lot of my partner Jasmine's family, and I got to have a dig at some of the musical influences that they have, because they some of them sing as well, and some of them really enjoy Filipino music, and I got into getting familiar with their hip hop scene. The place where I'm from in Philippines as well, where I was born, called Pasig, is actually one of the hometowns of one of their famous and first hip hop acts. I forgot his name. It ends with an M, but he.
Oh, not cool, bro.
Francis Magalota. I don't know, I only heard him this year, and like Maida Jasmine showed him, and he did a lot of like hip hop sort of rock infused music with this band called Parokia and Edgar, and I got a little bit inspired in a way where it was like, wow, this is where my roots are from, and sort of like I got in touch with who I am as a person through that music as well.
Is Filipino hip hop different to local Aussie hip hop?
Nah, I mean, I feel like hip hop in general, it's always going to be sort of coming from an American influence, obviously, because that's where it was born. And so like different countries like the Philippines, Australia, they have their own way of doing it, but like the basis of it all is obviously still the same as how an American would do it. It's just the content, and obviously the language as well, and the cadences are different, and sort of because hip hop is like what Andre said, it's just an expression for people that need to have that lane to sort of either break rules, express themselves, tell their story, or sort of like spread the news on what's going around on their area through this art form. And so it just varies from different countries.
So I was born in a sort of small country in the east of Europe called Bosnia, and it was caught up in a awful civil war over there. So that's sort of like, it's a part of my story, and like coming to terms with that and trying to make sense of that is, to put it mildly, or like as a comparison or analogy, like kind of, you know, I guess some of the sort of stuff that's maybe like going on in Hong Kong right now was like really, really like, you know, blew up in that part of the world. And it's always been a kind of conflict-ridden area. You know, I think, you know, my parents and myself as well have sort of tried to, and still tried to like understand if there's a kind of a character or a spirit to that, to the people, you know, of Eastern Europe or the Balkans or whatever. And so the Balkans, I think, like I've heard it described, and I think it's fair to say it's like violence and aggression on one end, you know, and kind of like, you know, political turmoil and stuff. But then there's just so much kind of like, in particular in the musical forms, just so much passion and virtuosity. In Bosnia in particular, or like in that region, there are really well-known like ballad standards, like love songs that are like hundreds of years old that people play, that you grow up with, that are like, you know, part of your childhood, and like those melodies never really go away. You know, like old Bosnian love songs are kind of weirdly like sort of about the same kind of stuff. My parents won't let me marry the guy that I like. Doesn't matter whether, you know, you're living in the 16th century or in the 21st century, like heartbreak's still the same. You know, that kind of music and that feel, which often is quite kind of like melancholy, that kind of has seeped into me, you know, and it's something that I kind of channel consciously and unconsciously. But then what's really interesting about, like, you know, in particular, like, you know, Yugoslavia in the kind of the 80s, like before like shit hit the fan, was that unlike a lot of other Eastern Bloc countries, there was a lot of Western culture coming through. And so like my parents in particular, like coming from the capital, like they grew up on like rock and roll, and they had records from like, you know, people that still inspire me, that I think, you know, hope to kind of work hard to reach that sort of level of accomplishment. You know, the sort of like great 60s, 70s bands like, you know, the Beatles and Janis Joplin and Hendrix, Floyd and Zepp and those guys, like that was coming into Yugoslavia at the time. A lot of the kind of stuff that we like and is still really, really popular, that, you know, like Ello's dad would like, you know, Ello's dad and my parents, same generation, grew up on the Eagles and Pink Floyd and all that kind of stuff. And then yeah, I guess like, you know, when we moved here in the early 90s, like, you know, Ella mentioned Savage Garden, like that was the first CD I bought. Like,
really?
Yeah,
That's
Savage
true.
Garden, you know, Fly Me to the Moon and Back, and that awesome pop record, as you try to make sense of yourself and wonder, like, you know, how much of my home country's still with me, how much am I like an Australian, what does that even mean? Like, you know, I've been recently, like, I've been reading a lot of like Australian literature, but like also trying to kind of like, yeah, listen to Australian music and try to make sense. Is there something that kind of is common to Tame Impala, Powderfinger, Midnight Oil, Silverchair, those kinds of acts? Like some of the tracks that we're currently working on have really overt references to some of that sort of like Eastern European modalities and rhythms. I think rhythmically as well, there's just something about like, even to this day, like you go see like great gypsy bands, or like, let's say just this morning I was watching a doco on like the Gypsy Kings. There's something about that like music that just gets the people going, you know, and like we kind of want to kind of channel that sort of like really kind of like life-affirming, exuberant kind of style instrumentally. Like I'm, you know, inspired by like John Butler and those sorts of guys. So like we always want to have that musicianship part of it, you know. Like I think my personal issue with some kind of modern day sort of hip hop is it just feels like it is like just a bit too kind of synthesized, sterile, and sort of like divorced from like musicianship, you know. It's kind of
formulaic.
Like, yeah,
it's
like,
just like the same
so Kendrick's stuff, the producers that he had around him, like I know the guys that were like producing his albums, they listen to all kinds of stuff, and they'll pick up like, you know, like George Clinton, Parliament Funkadelic samples from the 70s. They're still going right back to that stuff. And I know Kendrick's still inspired by that stuff and sees himself in that lineage. Yeah. So I guess, yeah, we're just trying to do the same, you know, like everybody, you know. Like I think one of Australia's strengths as a country is the extent to which it's accepted migrants, and migrants have become a part of its life. And it's never perfect and easy, and like people don't always get along, but I think compared to where I fucking come from, it's like, this is fucking paradise, you know. Back into like 70s, for example, you did tours to promote albums, right? These days, you release albums to promote tours, right? And that's because there's more money in touring, right? And in performing. And so what we're hoping is, because, you know, we're good, competent live musicians and have a good high energy, and like whenever we've played live, even if people have kind of been like, you know, don't know kind of what direction these guys are getting at, we've always managed to get people involved. So we're kind of hoping to, like, I guess, you know, be recognized and be like hopefully a festival act in like the next kind of couple of years.
Oh, don't feel bad.
I don't feel bad. It's just
we're just being as real as we can about it.
It's kind of like, it's like asking your parents how their marriage is going.
Bumblebee.
Alright, I'll get you guys this side, that side too.
Cool. You just let us know and we'll play that.
Like, yo, we're Dream Cities. I'm Andrej. This is Ello. We're going to play a track for you called Honey in the Veins off our debut album, self-released, Everybody's Nobody. This is the first thing that we worked on. The opening bars to this track were freestyled by Ello in a little studio in Chippendale. And then, we kind of worked on it for a couple of months, and this is what came out of it.
Trying to direct the adrenaline to a better place instead of switching my thinking down to a lower pace. Enough procrastination, patient while you hide behind the fact that I am not another number one without a voice. Got me starting over the new chapter, so raise a glass with the hand solo, I'm Chewbacca. Cause I salute to that cause, I wanna hear an applause to be considered as raw, just wanna leave them in awe. Yeah, I'm awesome enough to redefine. See, I was victim to listening to these doubtful minds crunching on my ears. I'm still here to carry mine, blind to the fuckery, bury me at the finish line. I'm on point, premeditated to get alive. We can guarantee that it's automatic for any vibe. With the method, it's evident that I stand out. Understand the meaning of meaning, the shit you talk about. The prone be aware that it's evident. My relevance delivers in the level of excellence. Can't settle for second. I leave a trace of no evidence and remain to be the sickest, like I'm lacking the medicine. It's like honey in my veins, heavy on my brain. I found a better way to set the drama up in flames.
Honey in the veins, heavy in my brain. Found a better way to set the drama up in flames.
I said honey in my veins, heavy on my brain. I found a better way to set the drama up in flames.
Honey in the veins, heavy in my brain. Found a better way to set the drama up in flames.
Forget the data expressing, I'm only left to wonder, ponder about the way that I'm shaking up what has had us under. Reject the regular, reinventing the message. I ain't focusing on nothing but elevating the present pleasant. Let it be known, we're calling for higher power, predictable with intention. The bitterness tastes sour, the power holds up, the praise and the truth tight. Yeah, I swear that I've seen enough to expose it in plain sight. And now we're taking off, and I ain't bringing bags with me. They're trying to find me, but I'm lost inside a dream city. We're taking off, and I ain't bringing bags with me. They're trying to find us, but we're lost inside a dream city. Honey in my veins, heavy on my brain. I found a better way to set the drama up in flames.
Honey in the veins, heavy in my brain.
I said honey in my veins, heavy on my brain. I found a better way to set the drama up in flames.
Honey in the veins, heavy in my brain. Found a better way to set the drama.
Don't need to tell them what I've been through. It's already been done. Don't need to tell them what I've been through. It's already been done. Don't need to tell them what I've been through. It's already been done. Don't need to tell them what I've been through. It's already been done. I kick back to catch a vibe, trying to peep through their disguise. Man, I wonder what their eyes could see. If I could break the borders of thoughts trying to distort us, then I wonder if we all feel free. I kick back to catch a vibe, trying to peep through their disguise. Man, I wonder what their eyes can see. If I could break the borders of thoughts trying to distort us, then I wonder if we all feel free. You feel me? I kick back to catch a vibe, trying to peep through their disguise. Man, I wonder what their eyes could see. If I could break the borders of thoughts, trying to distort us, then I wonder if we'll all feel free.
Great. You guys
Thank
played
you.
really well done.
Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to get out of your comfort zone and see how you handle certain situations with your creativity that you're not used to. Because that's the only way you're going to find out what you're capable of as a person. Be truthful in what you say. Put your heart into everything that you do. Don't worry too much about the audience. It'll come naturally. If people gravitate to your music, speak your truth. Love what you do always. And just mean everything you say.
For all the guitarists out there, like, be very, very afraid of failure. No, that didn't really work for me. Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say, pay attention and learn note for note your like favorite recordings. You know, like there's no magical easy way to do it. I mean, there's plenty of like amazing online tutorials and software and stuff like that, but I kind of just feel like on my end, like the more that there are just all these like gadgets and stuff out there that help you play, that like maybe people are just like kind of losing out on like what's real, which is like spending time with your friends in garages and like playing music and like, you know, getting tired. And you know, I think that just applies even more like to me right now, like, but now that we've sort of released something, it's like, and you know, you appreciate how much hard work it takes. It's like you just know that all your favorite artists and all the people that were, you know, inspire you, like spend hours and hours agonizing over every note and sound and everything, and that's, you know, that's what it takes. And and so yeah, there's a craft aspect to it, but like I guess, yeah, enjoy it, put the time and the effort in. But like, yeah, like I remember like years ago, I was looking for a band and came across these some dudes online. They're in a punk band and were like, you know, like, we don't care about scales. Like, yeah, you're not going to hear from them. So like, know your scales, know your chords. You know, like there's a famous story that Paul McCartney and John Lennon took a bus ride across Liverpool to ask a guy what like a B major 7 was or something. Like, and doesn't matter whether that's true or not. Like those guys, before anybody knew who they were, like they spent a year in Hamburg as a covers band, you know, learning famous songs. You know, they were released later sometimes, like Besame Mucho and stuff like that. There's just like there's no other way around it. You know, but yeah, I guess just, you know, love it. Cultivate your talents and your craft, and like, yeah, I guess, I don't know, hopefully things kind of like work out.
Hey guys, thanks for hanging with us on the Convo couch, and thank you to Dream Cities for today.
Half of Dream Cities.
Half of Dream Cities.
Yeah.
Dream Town.
Dream Village.
Dream Village.
Thank you to Alex and Mike for not coming along.
It's half the band.
We'll see you next week.
Don't forget to subscribe on the links below and check out their profiles too. See you next time.